Happy Friday, friends. Welcome on for Flavor Friday. Let me know, how did your week go? What did you cook? Spices did you use? What seasonings? What flavors? I love all the recipe and dish and flavor ideas. Please say hello and drop those down below. For those of you who are new here, I am personal chef Rebecca Connolly, both food coach and personal chef mentor, personal chef coach. And today we're going to be talking about what I've been talking about all week: planning, workflow, creating a rhythm that makes real life feel a little bit lighter, I hope. But what I want to begin with is something that I have learned repeatedly in nearly 20 years as a professional personal chef. Good plan is only the beginning. Raise your hand. Who else has experienced this, right? A good plan is only the beginning. So, yes, planning matters. And so does what you notice after the plan meets real people, real kitchens, real week, real life, right? We've all heard the old adage, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So definitely have a plan. But the key is the plan needs to be flexible, adjustable, and refinable. So I don't plan because I believe I can control every detail. I plan because too many decisions made under pressure create unnecessary exhaustion. That is true in business, and it is especially true at dinner time. When I sit down to plan a client menu, I'm narrowing the decisions before the cook day even arrives. I'm asking these questions: who am I feeding? What do they enjoy? What have I learned from previous meals? What kind of week are they having? Which flavor family gives the menu direction? More often than not, I'm picking, depending on each how many meals, I'm picking a different flavor family for each meal, just for variety in their menu, right? That structure right there reduces the noise of menu planning. And it also gives me a very concrete place to begin. So I'm not down the rabbit hole just looking up all summer chicken dishes, right? So my workflow doesn't begin with recipes, it begins with questions. What does comfort food mean in this particular family, to this particular client, to you, if you are planning for your own family? How much spice or heat do they enjoy? Do they want bold flavor or something more gentle this week? And I always ask my clients before an upcoming cook date, before I start planning their menu, do you have any requests? And those requests, and I take requests anywhere from, they might be craving a certain ingredient, they might be craving a certain flavor direction, they may want a home version of their favorite takeout. But that's why I ask those questions, because just as in your home, our cravings and what we want can change from week to week, right? And of course, cooking at home, you can make those cravings more nourishing than perhaps the nearest drive-through. Okay, so bold flavor, something more gentle. Which ingredients are welcome? Which ingredients do they say they enjoy, but then they're also the ones that get left behind or not chosen most often, right? So when I create a menu selection, say if the cook date is for 3 meals, I'll send a selection of 5 or maybe even 6 meals for them to choose from. And even if all of those meals are appealing, the ones that are actually chosen and enjoyed give me more clues as to what this particular family's flavor profile is, right? So, two families may say they both enjoy Italian food, but what kind of Italian food are we talking about? One family may mean the red sauce, the garlic, the parmesan, lots of richness, right? Meaty, cheesy, tomatoey. And another might simply mean lemon, olive oil, herbs, vegetables, something a little lighter, something a little brighter, a little bit more refined than the manja manja, right? Same flavor family, but different flavor profile. That is why people have to come first. That is why people come before the menu planning. So, flavor profile isn't a formula, it's a starting point. It doesn't give me a guarantee, right? People change, children grow, schedules shift, Health needs evolve. Sometimes a meal sounds wonderful during menu planning, but then it's simply not one that the family or the client ever wants again. Sometimes they enjoy something I thought might be a stretch for them, and then they request it again and again. Sometimes I discover that a texture matters more than a particular flavor, and also that's something that the client themselves might not realize until they experience it and think about it from a different perspective, right? When someone prepares food for you, you can think about something a little bit more objectively than if you prepare it for yourself. So the profile, the client, the family's flavor profile becomes more clear through experience the more that I cook for a client. I've actually had a client say to me, "Oh, well, you're the next best thing to myself being in the kitchen for me." Right. So I am learning as I go, but obviously, after the flavor profile assessment, I have a big jump start. Right. So that's why my process for menu planning isn't people, flavor profile, flavor family, meal. That's it. Right. My process is people first, then the flavor profile, then the flavor families, meals, feedback, refinement. It's that last step that truly matters. So menus teach me things too. I've planned combinations that looked completely reasonable on paper and then actually ended up being less efficient in the kitchen than I expected. Too many assembly elements, too many different preparation methods competing at once for time, too many dishes requiring attention at the same moment. Nothing was necessarily wrong with the individual meals, but it was the combination and the cooking timeline that needed editing for not just for efficiency, but just for workability in the kitchen, right? So experience helps me see a lot of that in advance, but sometimes I'm surprised on a cook day, right? So it's not that, but I'm certainly not incapable of being surprised. The kitchen is still very much the part of the teacher. And this applies whether you're cooking professionally or feeding your own family. And for each client, I'm in a different cooking environment. So I have to learn the kitchen just as much as I learn the family. So you don't need to follow a flawless weekly plan. What you need is just enough structure to reduce your decisions. Maybe you know Tuesday is going to be Mexican inspired, Taco Tuesday, right? Maybe Thursday needs to be familiar. Maybe it needs to be freezer friendly. Maybe it even needs to be, hey, we need to eat what we already prepared Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That way we're ready for the weekend, right? Maybe Friday is the evening you try something new, or maybe it's pizza and movie night. Then pay attention. What is it that disappeared? What did nobody want as leftovers? What was harder to prepare than it was worth? What made dinner feel easier? Use that information when you plan again. That's how confidence develops. Not through getting every meal right, through becoming better at noticing what is working for you in your kitchen for your people. And that's different for everybody. So, what does this mean in business? The same is actually true in a personal chef business. Your first surface service structure will not be your final one. Your first workflow will need adjustment. Your first menus will teach you things. Your first clients will help you understand what questions you should have asked during the consultation. You do not have to interpret every adjustment as evidence that you weren't ready. Refinement is part of professional work. A sustainable business is not built by getting everything right on the first try. It is built by paying attention long enough to make the next decision wiser. So, my question to you is, where in your life are you treating the need to refine as proof that the original plan failed? And what might change if you saw it as useful information instead? One of my very first clients, this is one of my favorite examples of how planning, even the best of planning, did not work out the way that I had anticipated it would. One of my very first families had two different allergy panels in that family. The father and daughter shared an allergy panel, and the mother and son shared an allergy panel. So we decided that a 6 meal cook date divided into 3 meals for one allergy panel and 3 meals for the other, along with vacuum sealing all the meals packaged family style, would be the best solution for this family. Now, in my head, this was going to take me, it was an all day cook date, 6 meals as an all day cook date between grocery shopping and packaging and cleanup, right? I was like, okay, so I'm going to get started 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and I'll be on my way home by 4 or 5 o'clock. Well, 6 o'clock rolled around, 7 o'clock rolled around. My husband called. We still had the two kids were still, under 5 at this point. And he was like, are you coming home tonight? Is it going okay? You going to make it? And I was maybe half an hour away from home, right? And I think it was probably between 7 and 8 o'clock this took me almost 10 hours. But I learned from that first time doing it, okay, I need a better workflow because, I had to prepare each allergy panel separately in the kitchen and clear down in between. 20 years later, looking back on that, I probably would have scheduled that much more differently. I would have suggested, well, we need to divide this into 2 separate cook dates. That way, the kitchen stays clean for each allergy panel. And that also leaves me more room, right? For the unexpected that happens in the kitchen. Vacuum sealing takes longer than simply putting things into containers, slapping the label on top, and popping it into the fridge or the freezer, right? Things have to be yeah. So experience helps. Experience shows. And we've all had those experiences, right? Where you think back and you go, oh, yeah, definitely could have done that a little bit better. But the key is to learn from that, right? So I want to leave you with this. Plan carefully, plan your menus carefully, but begin with who you are feeding. Maybe it's just yourself. Maybe it's you and your husband. Maybe the kids are just home from college for spring break. But who are you feeding in this next round of meals that you're trying to plan, right? Build it with enough structure that you still have flexibility, that you can still move within it and stay curious about what real life teaches you when you execute those dishes or that menu. That is the rhythm. It's not about perfection. It's about attention and it's about refinement. And it's about giving yourself grace through the whole process, right? So, this week in our group for your Flavor First Challenge, I'd like you to share one thing about your current dinner rhythm that you've learned. What have you learned about your current dinner rhythm? What's it taught you? Maybe there's a meal that your family wants more often or would eat every week or every day if given the opportunity, right? Maybe you always have a night during the week. School end of summer is coming. School starts for us here in Oklahoma in a couple of weeks. Maybe a night needs something easier, right? Usually by Wednesday. Wednesday was always the kicker night for us, right? We've gotten to the middle of the week and it was like, whew, we got to make it to Friday, right? Wednesday was the day that we needed something quick and easy, already done, or it was pick up, take out, or sometimes our church even had Wednesday potluck dinner, right? Maybe a night needs something easier. There's a flavor that you or your family enjoy more than you realized, or maybe there's part of the plan that simply needs editing. No matter how much you've tried to make it work, it's just not working. And that's okay. It might work for a friend of yours. It might work for their family, their lifestyle, but it doesn't work for you. And that's okay. It doesn't have to work for you. What you need to figure out is what works for you. Flavor wise, nourishment wise, time wise. Not everybody can take that, Sunday afternoon, do the shopping and do all the prep. That's why I always recommend component prep. Prep more as you go along during the week as you can. That way, you're not sort of front loading not everybody can take 3-4 times out and basically do a cook date for their family as a personal chef would. And you don't need to feel guilty about that. The goal is to figure out what works specifically for your family. So in the group, if you need the link to the group, drop group down below and I will send you that link for our Kitchen Confidence Club. We would love to have you join us and join our conversation in there, but share one thing that your current dinner rhythm has taught you. And then we're going to go from there. So if anything in this conversation has resonated with you, has sparked interest in you, your curiosity. In 1 week, I am offering a free live workshop. It is part of the 5 p.m. Dinner Freedom series, and we are going to talk exactly about that. During that workshop, we are going to build out your new and or improved kitchen rhythm to fit your lifestyle. And that's especially important as summer is coming to a close and we are moving into the school year, right? Because the school year always has a different rhythm to it than the summer does. So, friends, remember, flavor is how we savor both at the table and in life. And until next time, keep it simple. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me.